I have to tell you, those of you who've been here as long as me, that's a lot of you, that sometimes now when I sit in church and I gaze about the congregation, and I see some of you aging, and I just, it really ticks me off. And when I see your children, then I have to look at your children's children, and maybe I had your child as a son. Are you just having these moments now where you realize, okay, if they're looking old, I'm old too. And that's the way Sacrament Meeting had this feeling. And so I thought, oh, I'm feeling old because I'm saying Missy Porter and have 3 children, who I'm sure doesn't go by Missy anymore. But all these children who are now older, you just start to realize it's going by so quickly. Perhaps I should start paying attention. Maybe it wouldn't really matter that I'm getting it. And it made me feel strange about the way that today's lesson is planned to begin, and that is, let's ponder, shall we, that you're dead. So we're beginning with a little, mental trip. Now that I'm feeling old, it's an easier transition. And I have to tell you that the camera is set up. I find this very amusing, but don't do anything scandalous. I'm just telling you it's there. That's what my husband does. He's doing something else for church right now. I don't even know why. This is a man that I love dearly, and he wanted to see the lesson. I said, you cannot set up a video camera in the classroom. You know what, we're shoplifters? I don't think so. Hi, honey. And he said, no. He says, use it. Use it as part of your lesson. So here's the part of the lesson that makes the reason that the video camera is there is that we are being recorded. Did you know that? We are always being recorded. So now again, go back to where I began. Can you follow? I know I moved quickly. You're dead, remember? You were old over at Sacrament, and now you're dead. Reflect, because you will be in a position of the biggest job review you ever had. Those of you who know what it is to be in a job review and pull out files and talk to you about your performance. This will be the big job review. Let's think about you're looking back on your life. What you accomplished in your life that matters to the Lord as we're being taught. First of all, let's think about what adversities did you face. In your mind, think of your top 2. To this point in your life, and I look at your faces, and some of you have some big ones. Think of 2 real adversities that you have faced in your life. Don't give them names. I'm thinking about things that happened. And then you think on that, and with the perspective that we will have when we step to the other side, what did those give me? What did I learn because of having faced those adversities? And you will definitely see more clearly, that was really rotten, but because of that, I learned this. And then what if, at that point they said, okay, overs, you can go back. What would you have done differently with those adversities that you have imagined, than you have done? And with the sight that you have now to see the blessings that came to you because of your challenges, what could you have done to more amplify those blessings of the things you learned? With that kind of vision, you would look and say, I learned so much. I could have learned more had I. Very often the answer, I trusted the Lord and done what I felt I should do and didn't have the courage to do. You had a lesson last week, and I thank Patty for giving it to you, as you began the story of Joseph. Joseph, writer of that #1 bestseller, What to Do in Times of Trial and Adversity. And so as we think about what we can learn and better from the challenges that life gives us, we have a wonderful example in Joseph of how through incredible adversity, you want to talk rotten family? Let's talk Joseph. Think your family's bad? You think they're mean? You got mean brothers? Let's talk Joseph. The way he faced those challenges, amazing strength and faith. And so let's talk and learn about Joseph and think about what he could help us learn about better accepting adversity, having faith in adversity, and even growing and becoming better people because of our adversities. Okay, I have on his Joseph's coat, which is from Cairo. And I did, in honor of missing the lesson last week that Patty covered for me. I did go see the show on Thursday. Anybody else seen it yet? Yeah. We will not not be doing the Potiphar scene in class today. So. And on here I have some of my favorite slogans because I love quotes. And this is very true of why we're going to talk about Joseph today. This button I wear very often, and if you can't see it, which your eyes I'm sure have gone. If it's a man's world, let him clean it. But that's not the one we're talking about. The one we're talking about is don't take directions from someone who hasn't been there. That's why we're talking about Joseph. He has been. And when we want someone to tell us better how to face adversity, we're going to talk to someone who has been there. From the bottom of the well, we're going to be talking about Joseph, who you left in prison. All week he's been waiting for us to take him out of prison, right, Sister Taylor? Did you let him out of prison before you went home?
That wasn't my lesson you gave me. This is the lesson you gave me that I gave last week.
No. You didn't throw him in the well last week? I went way off track. He's not in the well? Okay, well, we're going to do it backwards. Because time is truly 20 minutes. I'm only going to skip to the part I made up at the end.
Wait, we missed it last week, so.
Oh, yeah, we missed it. I gave you the wrong lesson. It's totally my fault.
That's okay. It's a fun part.
Did you begin with the dying part and everything? Oh, okay, skip that part. Oh, now we have to...
I'm a nurse. We have heart attacks.
Oh, yeah. And you resuscitated and everything? Okay. This will still work. Actually, I'm seeing this as a good kind of a model of I am now facing adversity. Am I worried? No. Because I have faith, and I actually am just like Joseph right now. I am saying, okay, that was really bad, but I see the Lord's hand in this. He would know I had no time to do a very expansive lesson. And so that's why I got the wonderful insight at the end that I know you didn't find because I made it up. And so the bad news is now next week I have to put him back in the well. Oh dear. Okay, I will just remind those of you who weren't here what they did last week. And we will get to the end. And we'll be perfectly tired. You're probably off the hook. Okay, we got to do the same. Okay, so let's have it as a review summary then of what you already talked about last week, which is, we skipped his adversities, tell me his challenges. What happened to him? Thrown in a well by family. Intending to kill them. Sold into slavery as a, you think, 17-year-old. Sold into slavery. Ruined his beautiful coat, which actually that may have been a very valuable coat because dyes were so expensive. It truly was more than just pretty. It was probably incredibly valuable. What else happened?
Women chasing
The Potiphar issue. Okay, so we have Potiphar. Potiphar's beautiful wife. Don't make pictures in your mind, Kendra. Those who just saw the play. Don't go there. And he is thrown into jail for...
seducing somebody he didn't seduce.
No. Exactly. That he didn't. Accused of, wrongly. So by saying, I will not sin, I will obey the Lord, he was thrown into jail. What might be a natural reaction to that situation? What would your question be to the Lord? I was keeping the commandments. That's what I was doing right. I was avoiding evil. What's happening? Skipping. Okay. Threw him into jail. The butler and the baker had dreams. He interpreted. Word. Okay. Skipping. Eventually, the butler who said, I promise I will let Pharaoh know what a great guy you are. Takes him how long? 2 years. 2 years to remember. So now we finally have Joseph out of jail. He begins to interpret for Pharaoh a dream. Who has seen the show? I'm sorry, if you've seen the show, this part is just so hysterical. He is Elvis in the show. I don't know how to tell you that, but the Pharaoh is Elvis. And so we have Kendra, these four are going to, I told them in 10 to 15 seconds. Pharaoh's dream was?
7 fat cows came out of the Nile, and then 7 thin cows, and the fat cows, and it didn't do any good, and they stayed thin. And then 7 ears of corn grew up and were beautiful ears of corn, and then there were 7 bad ears of corn, and then bad corn ate the good corn, and it was still bad.
That was very good. It's better choreographed. friend. Joseph translates.
7 fat cows and 7 good years of corn are 7 years of plenty, and then the 7 skinny cows and 7 in corn are 7 years of famine. So there's going to be 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. So you got to prepare when you have that.
And what did Joseph then advise Pharaoh to do? They're so fast. Wow.
The song. But he basically said, let's get a food storage going.
Very good. That was even less than 50 seconds. Yes.
Nice promotion.
Very nicely. And so, when Joseph was feeling abandoned, how did the Lord bless him? What just happened there? From the beginning, what happened? The Lord blessed him how? He felt abandoned. He had what did Joseph have? An amazing gift for? Interpretation of dreams. Where did that gift come from? From the Lord. What do we do to acknowledge? Let's look real quick at a scripture that you probably thought. I'm skipping so quickly here. But this one is worth marking, even if you marked it last week. Let's mark it again. And that is in... I will find it. It's in Genesis, of course. 41, 16. That one should be marked in your scriptures. We are blessed with gifts. And when Pharaoh says, what an amazing gift you are, and he says to Joseph, how amazing, how wonderful you have this gift. And what is his response? It's not me. Well, that's it. Yeah. Who is it? You want to read it because it's so short.
Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace."
It is not in me. When we are aware of that we have an amazing blessing or a gift or a talent, is our response to it that, well, it's not, it was a gift to God to me. And then use that gift to glorify God and to honor Him, a gift that we have been given rather than glorifying ourselves. So skip now to the story. Well, he's out of jail. We're doing the Speed Reader's version to just get to the core of what I think we can really learn from this. He's out. He gives this lesson, and he comes to visit. How long has it been? How long? Over 20 years. 3 years at least in prison. 10 years as a servant to the Pharaoh. 7 years of plenty. 2 years of famine. We think he was about 39 years old. Why did they not recognize him? 17 to 39, he looked and dressed and was shaven and looked very differently. He, however, recognized them. And I'm sure she covered the stories, how they came, he sent them back, and they end up back in his court. So let's just go to that because it's such a powerful, powerful lesson to us. It's what we do with those who have truly offended us. In 45, we have brothers that he does reveal himself to. Their reaction is worry, having known what they did. And we see Joseph in 4 through 11, if you just want to look through it. So tenderly tell them who he is. And he has been speaking to them before this through an interpreter. They haven't heard his voice because they assume he can only. So he has a translator because most people who come to him speak Egyptian only. So they have heard his voice only through interpreters. He sends them out and speaks alone with his brothers. And what a scene this must have been for them. And in 14 and 15, we have so tenderly, it's 45, 14, and 15. This is very tender. Who will read it for us?
And he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him.
We have actually, through that passage, I think we have 4 times where it says, after talking to his brothers, Joseph had to leave the room and weep at seeing them. And the joy that he felt in seeing his younger brother Benjamin. And we think of this response to an amazing cruel thing that had been done. And years he could have harbored resentment, and it could have built, could it not? Do you not know people who for 25 years could have built their resentment till at this moment they would have just exploded in wrath? He's had 22 years to think about this. And with such tenderness, when we think of it as an example, we think of the tenderness of his heart and his faith in the Lord through these trials. Okay, we have 15 minutes, which is just the amount I was dreaming of having. The issue of forgiveness that we learn from this is so powerful. There are people whose lives are destroyed over a harbored grief or a harbored anger over not being able to give forgiveness, or being offensive and not having the humility to ask forgiveness. And have you never heard talk shows that talk about we should forgive? You listen to the television, the radio, read. When there's an atrocity, and we talk about, I've moved on, and I am able to forgive and let it go. But tell me the world's reaction to that. It's scoffed at, and generally, what do they think the response should be when you have truly been wronged? And truly wronged?
Sue.
Sue, thank you. Jerry Springer. Yes, this was Jerry Springer, yes.
Revenge.
I will never forgive them. Have you not heard that out of people's mouths? I will never forgive this. And I've always been respectful of that, because a hurt can hurt in a way that may take you this whole life to work through. I don't think we can judge others who carry an incredible hurt to their heart, but I hope what we can come to understand today better is why this is such an important principle to us from either side. A life-altering principle that's so beautifully and tenderly demonstrated as an example from our Joseph. I'm going to first tell you the most interesting, helpful thing that I had explained to me about forgiving. If you have a really emotional hurt in your life, maybe from your childhood, that is so painful, you really cannot imagine ever going up to the offender and saying, you know, it's really all right. I know people who that is simply not going to happen and not possible. It isn't all right. The wound was life-altering. It's really all right. That the word forgiveness should more accurately mean that whatever it is that happened to you, was done to you that hurt you, no longer has power in your life. So that when you recall the horrendous thing that happened to you, it no longer raises up all the old anger or tears you down with incredible grief. That you remember it, you will never forget some things that happened to you. But the incredible, emotional, damaging part of that, you have let go of. That, when you have forgiven, is an amazing thing to have happen to you. And so, can we change the way we think a little bit? Maybe it'll make it easier for us. That instead of thinking of forgiving as a gift I give to the person who has offended me, it is finding a way for me to let go of the negative feelings and anger that I have, that my own heart can go forward, not carrying the anger and the hurt of a past event. That's when you know, that's kind of the test, when you can recall a hurt, acknowledge it, remember it, know that it taught you something, and the hurt is not there. That is a very spiritual thing that we're hoping to accomplish. That is a divine thing that we hope to accomplish. The ability to be able to give forgiveness in a way that we are able to let go of the hurt and move forward. Yes?
Something I thought was kind of interesting is in verse 5 he says, "For God did send me before you to preserve life." Joseph saw the positive in what had happened, and I think that helps him to forgive.
Yes, and we do sometimes get that in this life. It may be the next life. But yes, one of the things that he does when he's telling his brothers and forgiving is that I now see after 20 years that had it not been for what happened to me, you would have all starved. It is because of this that I am here and that I am able to help and serve and feed you. You would have died. Yes.
Well, kind of like on the talk, in 2 Corinthians talking about connections in verse 8 in that same chapter 45, and so Joseph says, "So it was not you that sent me hither, but God." You know, and I think when we look at it, that some of these things that happen to us, it's just what the Lord had in store for us to learn the lessons to the next step. And so, you know, we don't know what that connection is until 22 years later or what have you. But it comes back and says it wasn't you that did it, it was the Lord.
What does that also tell us about Joseph, that through that entire process, he was faithful? If he had become angry with the Lord and said, "Why have you done this to me?" and turned away, would he have ever realized? Look how long it took until he was able to say, but he stayed faithful through all that until he saw clearly that it had been the Lord's hand, he had not been abandoned. How do we find within ourselves that ability to do what, to some of us, if you're thinking of a hurt, how do we find what we need within ourselves to accomplish that which would take a miracle? You may even be feeling that way, that I have a hurt, it's long, it's been years, I struggle to let go of it, it's still very painful when I recall it, it's painful when I re-meet this person or this situation. What do we do to get the strength that we need to do something that is divine? This is an attribute of God, to forgive. So don't be too hard on yourself if you're finding it difficult. It is a divine attribute to truly forgive. How can we go about getting the strength that we need and the understanding? So it's what makes sense to us, because it made sense to Joseph also. Where do we look? When we need extra help.
We pray. We pray for an open heart, that we can have that ability to let go and forgive. And then we try to, I think, look for the good in the person that's hurt us, and try to realize that because of one situation, it doesn't mean that that person is all bad. And we come to see what was my part of it, maybe, and then stay humble and be teachable yourself, so that Spirit can touch you and help you.
When we are in tune with the Spirit, do we not sense a change in ourselves? When the Spirit really fills your heart, tell me some ways that you feel that you're more than you thought you could be. What areas? Some of them in a real way, in a more physical way. What ways do you feel yourself become better when you're filled with the Spirit?
You can let it forget with us when you have a spirit like that, and you let you understand that we're also children of God, but we just don't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we do, and we do have that choice. We do know the Savior, and it's up to us to do that. The Savior tells us to forgive everybody. He's the only one who can make the choices, and He should forgive.
Where do we get what we need to love more like that? Is it not just a harvest of the Spirit that we feel like we love everyone? I know creatively, when I feel like I'm in tune with the Spirit, creatively, you know, in an artistic way, I've had that fill me so that I am able to do more, be better at what I need to do in a very creative way. Have you not just sometimes in a setting needed more energy and prayed and found that the Lord is able to make you last and work? And when we look at President Hinckley, do we not see that the Lord is able to give him strength beyond his own? This is an area where you need strength beyond your own. You need divine strength to be able to do a divine thing, which is the act of forgiveness. Yes, Julie?
I was just going to say, I think when you're dealing with your children, a lot of times you have to rely on that, because they can be very trying at times, or their situations, or whatever it is that's going on in their life at this time. Sometimes you need to pray for the strength to go on and beyond what your mortal capabilities are, to teach or be there or figure out what to do for that person.
And I think probably everyone has had the experience where when you're spiritual, you have more patience than you know you have.
Oh, yeah.
As a parent. You know you have more patience than you have, that the Spirit has given that to you. Yes.
A story that I always think of when things get kind of overwhelming like that is Alma, when he escapes from Noah and his group, and they go off and they get captured by another group of Lamanites, and it says in there that their burdens were extremely heavy. And rather than praying that, you know, Heavenly Father, come and kill them all, you know, take our burdens away, they just prayed and their burdens were lightened. Even though they stayed the same, they were able to bear them because the Heavenly Father kind of bolstered them, kind of like what you were saying.
Yes.
And then eventually, after they proved themselves, they were, you know, rescued and released, and they were able to escape. But you know, I can't think of too much more than being in bondage, and then, you know, and they were happy even though they were in bondage.
They were
because,
still, their situation had
Yeah.
not changed. Their ability to bear it had. Yes, that's what we're praying for. That He may not fix the situation and He may not zap the person first. We're praying for the strength to do what is divine, and that is to forgive. Where's Margaret? Is she here today? She always remembers the scriptures. So why are we here, Margaret? Man is
that he might have joy.
okay. We think she always I always count that. And your life exhibits it too much. So I love that share. When we think of why we forgive, I think we are wrong when we think we do it. We have, I'm sure within our families, people who have harbored a hurt till it has made them a miserably sad person. The Lord wants us to be happy. To be happy, we have to learn to forgive other people, because if you haven't been hurt yet, you will be. And most likely, if you do carry hurt, you'll be hurt again. And unless we figure out how to divinely find within us the strength to give forgiveness so that we free our own hearts and spirits, finding joy becomes more difficult in a very real way. I'm going to connect the dots for you. Yes?
One thing in summing that up that I think you're trying to say is it's very necessity in our lives that we forgive them, but then we go on with our life and we say we'll still live our life righteously, and it's up to you to take advantage of that forgiveness or not, but I'm not going to deal with it anymore. I've done what I can.
Oh, yes.
If
Say
you
that
want to
again.
come back
That's
and be
very
part of the
important.
family, fine.
Yes.
But in experiencing this, that it's a very hard thing to say, well, they didn't take advantage of my forgiveness, so that's tough.
It's tough. We don't control their people.
Yeah,
That's
you
really
can't-
rotten,
you
but
can't-
it's
you can't
so.
control.
Then we have to decide whether to break that. Let's connect where we've been from January to this. Where from January we've spent a lot of time talking about covenants. We've talked about how those covenants came to be and how we are so blessed by covenants that seal us as families. That we should sacrifice a couple of weeks ago and do anything we can to make sure that we are centered and our map is leading us towards the temple. That as a family we might embrace the covenants that Heavenly Father offers to us to be sealed. We connect that today because most of us do not need to look further than our own families to see that we need this principle. That we have within our own families and extended families, areas where we need to forgive. Children, parents, brothers and sisters who we need to find a way to forgive for us to continue to make progress, to find joy. I'd share you families within stories within my own family, but you all know most of my family. So I can't, because you tell. But my husband's family, he very tragically has a sister, who has not talked to her father in 30 years. 30 years. And if the subject comes up, she is still filled with venom. 30 years. She was a young woman when she had her feelings hurt. And it wasn't a ghastly air, just so you know. It was a pretty normal, in this world, kind of thing, you hurt my feelings. Her life is different. Her life is less joyful because she carries this anger. Her father, in the last few years I've mentioned to you, gone to the temple, become active in the church, and would long for his daughter, and continues to reach out. And she will not have anything to do with him. May we find joy in this principle within our very own families. I know myself that sacrament time is a time where I often think, prayerfully kind of say, where do I need to improve? And most of the time I get information about needing to go and ask forgiveness of things that I've done or that I should let go and forgive. That is a time where, when you're in tune, can be almost painful because the Lord is very eager to tell you where you need to forgive and where you need to ask to be forgiveness. In conclusion, we look to Joseph as an amazing example of trials that I doubt any of us can even match, remaining faithful, and being able to forgive and love and see the Lord's hand. It's just a beautiful example for us of this principle. It is powerful. It is miraculous in lives. A story that came to me that I'll just share to you as we close was in conference about 5 years ago. It's a man who survived the Holocaust. It's often quoted. And he was, after the war, and this is 10, 15 years after World War II, as a Holocaust survivor, went teaching all through Germany, how to forgive, because it was destroying people's lives, that they carried the anger, a righteous anger, a real hurt, but it was ruining their lives. They couldn't move forward. So he was going all over Germany teaching the principle of being able to forgive, so that you might let go of this and find joy as you go forward with the rest of your life. And he felt so good that he had accomplished this and now was able to teach others. And then he spoke in a group, and as he was speaking, he saw in the back a man who had been one of the SS guards in the camp, who was now old and fragile, who was listening to him, and he remembered the atrocities this man had done by his hand. Much more than was required by his job. Cruelty beyond what was required. And he realized in an instant that what he thought he had let go of was still in a shadow in his heart. And as he struggled to finish his remarks and thought, how can I say this? How can I talk this and teach it when I myself am not sure? As he concluded, this man came directly to the front. Did not recognize him. And in tears said, "Do you really believe that a person can be forgiven? Do you really believe I could be forgiven for things I have done?" Not him not knowing. And he felt divinity in his heart. And expansion of what he knew. As he hugged him, he said, "I know you can be forgiven." His heart was expanded in a divine way. It is a miracle. It will take divine help. But we must ask ourselves that very question. Do you really believe forgiveness is possible? Do you really believe, no matter what we do, that forgiveness is possible? It will be miraculous. It will bring you joy. I know it was meant for us as a part of our progression that we might go forward with joy as we let go of these things. We must ask ourselves, do we really believe that forgiveness is possible? I bear your testimony that it is. It changes lives. If you're carrying the burden of hurt, go to the Lord and ask how you might forgive. And I leave you my testimony. He's eager to help you, and I do that in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ.